Hello and welcome to the REPUBLICA Unicornia podcast. I'm Kathleen. I am an indie yarn dyer, a project bag maker, and currently a creative hot mess, more on the hot mess end of the spectrum. It's been so long since I did this. I just spent like, I don't know, 15 minutes trying to figure out how to get the phone on the tripod because, you know, clearly just high caliber production value around here. So get ready. It's going to be a lot. I have shameless self-promotion. I have all kinds of sewing and knitting and vintage stuff to talk about, and I'm all over the place. So I hope you are ready for some hyperactive chihuahua energy. I hope you have a lovely calming beverage because I'm not going to be calming. So let's just go ahead and do it. I'm going to start with shameless self-promotion because I know not everybody wants to see me shill my own products. So I'm going to go ahead and do that at the front end, and if we remember, we'll put in a timestamp so you can fast forward and then just get to the fun crafty stuff that I'm making. So I have a shop update coming this Thursday, May the 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It is a lot of stuff. I had my open studio a couple weeks ago, and it is everything that didn't sell there that I made because I make for both open studio and the shop update. So all kinds of very fun things. It's a little earlier in the month than usual for just life, just crazy stuff's happened and everything's fine. We're fine. It's just things. So I know people hate when people do that on YouTube, but whatever. This isn't like, I'm not a content creator. This is like, you're in my studio. I'm just showing you some things. Okay, so I'm going to start with probably just with my pile of stuff. So I have a couple of needle and hook rolls coming. I'm going to show how these work in a second. These are, here they are. Look at the little it's hummingbird season again, which is very, very exciting. So we have some hummingbirds. We have some really beautiful moths and beetles and woodland things and possums. So these are, I don't make these very often because they're a little bit of a pain. They are made to hold like your double pointed needles, your circular needles, your crochet hooks. Scissors fit in here. Tuft Woolen's hand balm fits in here. I know because that's how I designed it. Pens, your like little embroidery scissors, like all your stuff. And they roll up like a sleeping bag. And they have fold over elastic that holds them in place. And because they are padded, they're interfaced. The stuff doesn't fall out. So there's like enough poof in there that it kind of holds itself together. So there's 3 of those. Again, I don't make them very often. I use mine all the time. I love it. They're also good for like makeup brushes, paint brushes, your pens, things like that. So there's a couple of those going in. And per everyone's request, I did make microwavable bowl cozies. I don't make these very often. They are microwave safe. We've tested them up to 3 minutes. You can machine wash and dry them. They have all cotton thread and all cotton batting, so you're not going to explode anything in your microwave because we love safety and we love science. So there's quite a few of these. These are just the prints that I have. We have a chubby tuxie. I have a chubby tuxie too. Her name is Pip. Moths. Oh my goodness. Plant things. Werewolves, not swearwolves. Ring pops. Vintage Pyrex Frigies. Unicorns. And Chicago hot dogs. See what's not on here? Ketchup. Ketchup isn't on here. So bowl cozies will be available too, and I have sock size project bags. So we have this last little bit. Hold on, I have an extremely itchy nose, so I'm gonna be gross. Could I edit that out? Maybe. It's not, I'm not a content creator, y'all. Okay, so this fabric, which is the last little bit of this fabric I have, it's one of my all-time favorites. It's got, do you see the little snail on roses? And it's this like noxious pink. Oh, love it. And manatees. These are sock size project bags. Oh my gosh, y'all, I am out of practice. So the sock size project bags are pyramid shaped, and they're good for like 1 or 2 skein projects. And this is possums, and the inside glows in the dark because possums are nocturnal, you know. And they're really good for like socks, hats, mittens, beginnings of shawls. They actually hold more than you think they do because of their shape. And they do have a wrist strap, which I know doesn't fit everybody's body. I am sadly limited by the standard width of fabric, so it's a bummer. But yeah. So this one has little, oh my gosh. Why is it being off? Okay, there it goes, little possums. And a little sleepy possum. And a stretchy possum. There's a screaming one somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, there we go, screaming. It's not stretching, it's screaming. And stretching, like me every single morning. This one I love. They're rainbow colored beetles, and you can't tell, but they're metallic. And I love this one with the green zipper and the lovely beige. I always pick fun fabrics for the inside. They're almost never solid. Kitties and plants. This one's a little squished. Okay. Also, by the way, if you ever order a bag and it comes to you and it's like kind of squished, a warm iron will take care of it. It's just, they're cotton. It's just kind of what happens. But they are interfaced. This one I love because I have very fond memories of the Flintstones Push Pops. I don't know if you remember the orange sherbet ones, but they were Flintstones branded, and so I totally needed this one. It was a great summer bag. And then this one, because every time I order a weird medieval fabric, y'all lose your minds. And so I keep ordering weird medieval fabrics. It's medieval marginalia. So goofy. Oh my goodness, look. Is it a cat? Is it a snail? It's a cat snail! What in the hell is happening? I feel like I did I did a very fun, like, block printy burgundy inside on this one. So those are the sock size project bags. There are quite a few bags available. I made a lot. I like making bags. This next pile is the sweater weather bags. These are, I think, like 3 to 5 skein projects, so kind of depending on what that is for you. They got called sweater weather early on because it was cute. It's just, it doesn't mean that if your sweater doesn't fit in here, anything's bad about your sweater. It was just a thing. So this one is a throwback fabric. I found a source for some of my favorite out-of-print fabrics, and this was one of them. I did this bag in a different colorway. It was like a black and red. I did it like years, maybe like 5 years ago now for Halloween, but the blue one is lovely. Look at these little moonlit unicorns. So there's that one. Oh, I have so much stuff on these tables. I'm in my dye studio on the prep table, and it's just like knitting projects, yarn, all the stuff I need to show you. So all over the place. There's this one that has birds. It also has hummingbirds on it. Like I said, hummingbird season and moths. This fabric it's like watercolor. Watercolor on fabric is a whole thing for me. And then the koalas. Okay, I didn't put any kind of disclaimer at the top. I mean, I assume if you're here, you know who I am, because it's not like YouTube's going to show you this. But also, there might be some, 12-year-old boy humor and mild swearing in this one. So the koalas are super cute. However, I was watching a nature documentary several years ago, and koala mating is deeply disturbing. Like, I'm pretty robust, and I was horrified. So, I bought this fabric, and then I sat on it for a while because I was so traumatized by the nature documentary. Don't Google that. Just don't. You know what? They're cute. They're precious. Look at them. Look at them. They're snuggling. This is a Charlie Harper print, and I really do love it. So koalas. And this is just such a me fabric. It's cake on vintage china. Just every so often I just buy cake fabrics, and look, the inside's very fun. So those are the sweater weather bags, and then I have I think I have one extra large sweater weather bag. This fabric, I'm obsessed with it because it's our yard. It has raptors, so it's all birds of prey. So look at them. Look at how glorious they are. Gosh, I love a raptor. But it's like raptors, and then this hummingbird, ain't give a good goddamn. That hummingbird's what are you gonna do? I'm faster than you. But this is kind of what we have. We have hawks and we have hummingbirds. We have other birds too, but we have hawks and hummingbirds. So there's that one, which I do love. Oh, and the inside is metallic. I forgot. So lots of bags available. There is also a ton of yarn. I'm going to talk briefly. I have a new colorway. It's mostly restocks of, I make that face like, it's lovely. There's a lot of restocks of some colorways, some things that I haven't dyed in a long time, so that'll be available, and there's lots of different bases. I stock a lot of different bases because I like to knit with a lot of different things. But speaking of hummingbirds, I do have a new colorway. So I haven't talked about this one a ton. It got a little, Open Studio got a little crazy, and then just, again, life. This is Wood Nymph, which is named for a hummingbird, and I don't know if you can see it. It has all kinds of like green and like iris and purple speckles. It's very fun. This is a very fun yarn. Someone said it looked like Mardi Gras met the Aurora Borealis, which is appropriate since apparently people farther north than me could see it, which is amazing. So that's Wood Nymph. So I have it on... This is Pure BFL. I have it on Tarhi Sock, underrated base, Rambouillet Worsted, and I have some BFL sock sets. And in the photo I found of the Wood Nymph hummingbird, there's also like this like neon purple business on it. Hummies are so cool. Have y'all seen the David Attenborough documentary about hummingbirds? I think it's called Nature's Jeweled Messengers. I know because I've watched it repeatedly. I think it's on like, I think it was a PBS one. We have like the PBS documentaries subscription. Oh my gosh. Sir David Attenborough talking about hummingbirds is like instant chill. Highly recommend. So anyway, so this is Wood Nymph and Coordinating Mini. This is actually one of my very first colorways called Acid Trip Barbie. And it is a dye that I had a bad experience with the dye. Like it didn't set early on when I couldn't afford to really lose yarn, and it was heartbreaking, and then I was terrified. I never dyed it again. It's fine now. My new setup is amazing. Like I can cook it forever. It's fine. It doesn't bleed. It doesn't run. Like we're golden. But it is back on the menu, which is very fun. So that's that. There's going to be a crinkle noise because my mini skein set is packaged. So if that is sensitive to you, you're going to want to mute. Oh my gosh. Okay. A Bonkers Neon Rainbow mini skein set. So that will be available as well. And I have a couple of brand new notions. Well, I have one. I have a restock. There's a restock of the Right On project bag tags. I can show you one in action, maybe. Just hang on. Just hang on. We're just all going to hang on. So these, you can write on them with Sharpie, and it comes off with rubbing alcohol. And I've product tested them and did like wipe on, wipe off to make sure it wasn't going to damage the finish like 20 times, and it's fine. So those are back in stock. I really love these. I hadn't realized how much time I was spending just kind of going through and being like, what's in this bag? Because, you know, I'm not a monogamous knitter. I know many of you are not as well, and it's nice to know what's in there. So these are going to be available. And then we have some brand new stitch marker sets because I can't stop, won't stop. Thank you to Twin Mountain Handcrafts for always making my dreams come true. So this one's been brewing in my brain for a while. I don't know if you had an eraser set when you were little that had like, made by a certain company that I'm not going to name, that had a Scotty dog and sunglasses and a little candy and a pineapple and an ice cream cone and a strawberry and a unicorn and an orca. But I certainly did, and I wanted them in stitch marker form, and as always, Twin Mountain Handcrafts just kicked it out of the park. Sports hit it out of the park, and they are so fun. I've been using mine. We've started doing, which I love. I do anything besides like have an idea and then magic shows up on my doorstep. The clasps are removable, so they're suitable for knitters or crocheters, or like I'm noticing a lot more of my patterns are using locking stitch markers, so they're versatile, so you can use them for all of your yarn crafting needs. So also the orca's name is Gladys, and she sinks yachts. So these are going to be available. I love them. They made me so happy, and they're like this perfect little neon rainbow, and then Gladys. Also, Leslie from Twin Mountain Handcrafts sent me in one of my packages as a gift, a scissors, like a little scissors stitch marker, and it is my favorite stitch marker. Like, I didn't know you could have a favorite stitch marker, but I do. And I love them so much. I was like, okay, well, we're just gonna have scissors stitch markers. So these are gonna be available too. I love them. They are also neon rainbow. It's the neon rainbow time of the year. So they're neon rainbow and they are fantastic. And again, with the locking clasp, so you can use them in all of your projects. So there's new notions, there's a new colorway, there's tons of yarn. There's also fiber, and I dyed a good bit of Tarhi fiber. I've been dyeing Rambouillet. I like the Tarhi better. It's a little less dramatic. It's just like a little bit less of a diva when it comes to handling it, which is really nice because it's non-superwash, and so I do have to be careful, and I am careful. So there's gonna be fiber, there's a lot of yarn, there's bowl cozies, there's needle and hook rolls, there's project bags. Oh, you know what? I didn't even bring them. There's also notions pouches. Seriously, there's so much fun stuff going into this update. I hope you were excited. I'm excited. So that is Thursday, May the 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And as always, I will be over on Instagram with previews and things like that. Also, if you don't want to think about it, sign up for the newsletter. I will send out an email. I'll probably send out one early next week and right when the shop update goes live. So you don't have to remember things. No one will not be communicated with under my watch. Very into that. Okay, and shameless self-promotion. Enter knitting. Okay, we're gonna talk about, let's talk about finished objects first, then I'll talk about works in progress, then I'll talk about sewing. We have a plan. So y'all, I'm sure I've finished more than this since I talked to you like 2 months ago, but this is what I could remember off the top of my head. Yet again, this is like basically a commercial for Squid's School of Vintage Knitting because I have been enjoying her patterns so much since I think like October of last year, and it's kind of all that I want to knit. Her patterns are exclusively available on Patreon, and it is worth every penny. There is a $6 a month tier, and you get access to all the patterns. You get a new pattern every month, and every one has been fun. And it's even like ones that I didn't think I was going to be like super into, like something will happen in my creative brain, and I'll go back and I'll be like, oh no, I need this right now. So I'm going to start with the sweater because that's the biggest one. This is the Rose Street cardigan. I think I probably showed this as a work in progress in the last episode. Here it is. It is a 1940s cardigan. It's got a V-neck. It has puff sleeves, and they are set in, which I don't love doing, but oh my gosh, it really gives the garment a lot of structure, which is exactly what you want in a 1940s garment. This is a vintage pin. This is my grandmother's, my paternal grandmother's pin that she always had on her gray cardigan, and I was obsessed with it as a child, and it is the only thing I wanted when she died was her like 1980s Avon turtle. I love it very much. She would have loved all of this. She would have been so into me making clothes, especially from the 40s. Like, she would have been all over it. So it has, I don't know if you can see, it has lace sleeves, which were very fun to knit, and they're bishop sleeves, so they're nice and poofy. And I used vintage check glass buttons. I love these. I am going, because I love you, if you are willing to watch me blather on, I'm going to share this with you. I am going to link my favorite glass button supplier down below. They are gorgeous. I need to not go into this person's Etsy shop because every time I do, I spend a lot of money. But I really love glass buttons. I love being able to get all the fun colors. And, you know, I don't use them on my garments because I machine wash them because I am not hand washing my clothes. But knitwear doesn't get the same kind of machine treatment. So I can use fancy glass buttons. I also sewed a ribbon down on the button band like I always do. Especially if I'm using heavier buttons, which I am pretty much always now. I really like to have that extra stability. So there it is. And I won't be able to handle it on my body until like end of October, but that's okay. I know this. I live where I live on purpose. So in that vein, I've been knitting a little bit more on accessories because I can't handle a teeny bit of wool on my body when it's not like a full garment. So, I'm gonna start with the belts. So these are also a Squid School pattern. Okay, I'm back. I ran out of storage, but everything's all cleared up. Okay, so Sydney did a just super impressive knit suit set that has multiple options. There's a blouse, there's a skirt, there's a dress, there's belts. Like, it's incredible. I probably can't ever knit a suit because I live in Georgia, but the belts are so fun. So there's I think 5 in the pattern, and they're kind of a range of difficulty. So I chose my 2 favorites and I made them. So upside down? I can't tell. I don't think so. So this is the Merle Oberon. I actually did not know who she was, which is weird because I'm kind of a classic. Well, in high school I was like a classic film nerd, but you know, you miss things. So it is a like fabulous wide, sort of geometric. It's fantastic with a 1930s skirt. Like, I'm really loving it, and it's knit to your measurements, so it's wider in the front, but it fits my waist perfectly. So you like take your waist measurement and calculate your stitch count based on gauge. It's all of Sydney's patterns are like that, which seems intimidating, but it is so fabulous to end up with clothes with knitwear that fits your body perfectly. Like, it is worth every swatch. It's worth every, like, the brain power that it takes, because I feel like I'm consistently producing garments that feel amazing when I put them on because they're knit to my measurements. Plus, it's entirely size inclusive. So there you go. So that's belt 1. And I think I can't remember who this is. Is it Carol Lombard? I can't remember. So this is the other one. I don't know if you can see. Oh, I didn't even talk about yarn. This is bigger on the inside and white Russian and more vintage buttons. And I just realized I didn't talk about yarn from my sweater either. Y'all, bear with me. This is Love My Way on BFL sock, and it's ribbed. It's so cute. It's so clever. There's like a little slit so you knit it. You knit like one end of the bow, and then you knit it. It's ribbing. You knit it flat, and then you shape the other bow, and then you pick up some stitches to make the little like loop. And there's it's like a buttonhole in the back. It's so cute, and it's a little bow. I definitely think I want another one of these in like a burgundy for fall and winter. But just such a fun way to zhuzh up your outfit. And I'm going to talk about the one that I'm wearing. I finished this one officially yesterday. This is also Sydney's pattern. Seriously, it's ridiculous. This is the Avonlea Necktie. I'm going to stand back and not talk. I'm sure that's helpful. So, it's this very fun stitch pattern. It's actually knit in the round, which is kind of like, the construction was kind of mind-boggling. And again, you knit it has a garter band belt and garter band neck. You know what? I don't know words. It's so fun. I am officially a tie person. I've never thought about wearing a tie, but as you will hear in a minute, I've gotten in pretty deep to 1920s fashion, and so ties are very appropriate. I definitely want to make another one of these. And it was a fast project. This was like I was not doing much more than knitting, but it was a couple day project. And it has this lovely stitch pattern. It's just delightful. The yarn is not mine. The yarn is some of my deepest stash. It's Neighborhood Fiber Company's merino. It's like an 8-ply. They don't even make it anymore. It's a merino 8-ply. It's so nice. I got it like 7 years ago when I first started knitting, and it's a lovely gold. It's like beautiful, very, very subtle tonal shifts. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So yeah, that's the Avonlea Necktie, and I'm going to rewind a little bit and talk about the yarn for the sweater that I completely forgot to talk about. So the yarn is mine in bigger on the inside, so it's the same color. This one's BFL sock. This is the Domestic Merino 3-ply, which, whoo! Oh yeah, it's non-superwash merino. It was so nice to work with. It's so nice to wear next to skin. Absolutely a huge fan. I'm delighted by it. I have quite a bit more to dye too, so I hope y'all are into it too. So yeah, that's it. So bigger on the inside. I'm having like a moment with ultramarine and cobalt. So those are the off the top of my head finished objects. Now for the off the top of my head works in progress. So we're just going to continue with the Squid School of Vintage Knitting theme. So like I said, she did a whole like multiple months of patterns. So there's a blouse and a dress and a skirt, and there's all this lovely, lovely, lovely stuff. And I figured I could do a blouse, like I could handle a blouse. So it is the Four Seasons blouse, and I am using the spring lace pattern. Here it is. There's my swatch. Isn't that pretty? And it's right now it's like it's got buttons up the front. Oh, and I have buttons to show you. This is gonna crunch too, because I have them in a glassine bag. It's like ASMR but anxiety producing. Okay. So it's a button-up blouse, and it has a square neckline, it has puff sleeves, obviously, and then it has this lace. This lace panel is going to be at the yoke. I am excited. I've put it aside for a little bit because I needed some brain for it, and I did not have any available. But here it is. I'm almost at the armhole divide. This is my yarn. This is Medusa on Tarhi sock. And I don't know why I've never knit a garment with this yarn before. I think, I will say this, because of just how the fiber takes dye, it is not quite as like, it takes dye with a little bit more variation than the BFL bases that are, both are superwash. This one does not, I think it's like not a lot of superwash. I don't know what it is, or if it's just like the fiber itself. And you can see there's a good bit of variation, which if that's not your thing, fine. I am actually alternating skeins every other row, which I don't usually do with my tonals because one, I'm lazy, and two, I dye them, and I just figure if I'm gonna dye them and it's gonna be like weird, it's my own fault. Like I don't, it's my own fault. But this one I definitely wanted to kind of minimize it. It's actually showing up more on camera than it does in real life, but it has all of these like lovely shifts and pink and orange and coral, and I just really love this color. This is one of the reds that I'm just extremely into at the moment, and I figured it would be good for spring and fall, so that is in process. I'm excited to get back to it. I haven't touched it in a while. And then here, I'm gonna hold the buttons up to the swatch because it's easier than holding them up to the whole garment. So I have vintage, if you can see them, I have vintage check glass buttons. They have like a little Art Deco design on them, and they are gold. Can you see? Lord. And they're gold. They have a little gold on them. So fun. I actually had to order more, which is why more buttons happened. So that is the Four Seasons blouse with the spring lace panel, which I'm excited to work because I love knitting lace. At this point in my knitting life, anything that has, like, I really need a good bit of interest in it, or I'm going to not work on it. Like, plain stockinette in the round is not going to cut it for me anymore. I've been doing this too long and too much. And so I need, like, fun stitch patterns. I need shaping. I need something to keep me going. And lace is one of those things that keeps me going. So this was an impulse cast on, and I'm showing it here. I'm pretty sure the person who it's for doesn't watch this because they have other things going on. It is a baby cardigan. Again, not for me. It is not for me. It will never be for me. Please do not ask. It's so tiny. So this is the Xanadu cardigan. I will link below. I was just like on Ravelry and looking for something for a baby cardigan. And again, I don't want anything boring because I can't handle boring. And this is this stitch pattern. It's similar to the 1940s rainbow stitch pattern that is in the JoJo the JoJo jumper that I made. The difference is the slip stitches aren't offset, so it's like a single column of slip stitches. It is so enjoyable to work. Oh my goodness. I actually already have plans for a sort of autumn rainbow vest version of this for me. The pattern is only for children, but it's a stitch pattern that I'm comfortable putting onto something else. So I think I'm going to actually map it onto an existing vest pattern and make a super cute rainbow stripe vest. Look at it. So this is all my yarn. It's perfect. Okay, so this is, the tan is Toasted Marshmallow, the purple is Gin Soaked Barroom Queen, the blue is Blue Jean Baby, the like aqua-y, turquoisey is Silver Spring, the green is Arsenic and Good Taste, the yellow is Harvest Gold, the peach is Corner of Peach Tree and Peach Tree, and the like dusty pink is a Rose for Emily. And it's just, look at it. It's just been so fun because it's stripes, it's slip stitches. It's tiny. So I started the second sleeve last night. So I'm hoping I can finish it this weekend. It's so cute. It's so stinking cute. And then it's just ribbing and then buttons and things like that. So baby cardigan. I don't knit a lot of baby things. People in my life don't have a lot of babies. But this person needs one. Like, it's a need. So that has been very fun. So those are kind of my two big whips at the moment. I have a shawl I have other stuff on the needles, but you know, this is the time of year where my knitting mojo kind of starts to go down a little bit, because I literally can't wear anything on my body until, seriously, end of October, if that. And so I kind of lose a little bit of motivation. It'll kick back up again. I've been doing this long enough, I'm not worried. But my sewing mojo is another story. So I have fallen, even more than usual, down the rabbit hole of 1920s fashion. This is not surprising. I obviously have a bob. Like, I literally have a 1920s bob on purpose because I wanted a 1920s bob. And it's the only vintage hairstyle I can handle. I have really fine straight hair, and it doesn't, I can't even keep bobby pins in my hair. It's so slippery. And so curls out. Anything that involves rollers, anything like that is out. So my options are basically 1960s, straight, or a 1920s bob. And I love the bob. I am thoroughly enjoying the bob. So I've been marinating on this for a while. The problem with the 1920s is there's not if you find reproduction patterns, they're evening wear. Well, I don't care. I am a day wear queen. I don't like going outside at night. And so there's not a ton. I'm not really interested in doing beaded flapper dresses, because that's not how I dress. And so that kind of left true vintage patterns. Now, the earlier back you get with true vintage sewing patterns, they get a little bonkers and even lighter on instructions than ones from the 40s. And I didn't feel like I was at the point in my sewing life where I could handle that. So I kind of I've been gravitating towards because there's also better reproduction 1940s patterns for day wear out there. So I've been kind of gravitating towards that. Well, I bought a couple of 1920s vintage patterns, and this last week, within the last week or so, I finally decided that I was ready. I had some space, I had some more time, and I could sit down and do it. And then I just completely lost my mind. So we're going to talk about it. I am wearing one now. This was actually the first one that I did. This is a 1925 4/5 suspender dress. I think it was a Butterick pattern, and here's why. So, the magazine, the Delineator, is, I would say, my favorite resource for seeing period fashions kind of in their natural habitat. Butterick published it, so it's it was a women's magazine, and so they go way back. And so there's regular articles and advertisements, which are very fun, and then there's sewing, not actual sewing patterns in the 20s, but pictures of what Butterick would offer. Butterick's still around. I wish they would release all of those. They're amazing. And so you can kind of see regular middle class day wear. I do not care about high fashion. Don't care. So I've really, really been enjoying that. I'm going to also link to this. Cornell has them digitized. Oh, I'm sorry, and you're welcome. If you had anything else to do, sorry. Also, you're welcome. It's so fun. So I actually found this pattern in there. I ordered it from Vintage Pattern Lending Library. There are a couple of companies, people, sellers that take the vintage patterns and they don't draft them for a bunch of different sizes. They reproduce them, but they clean up the patterns a little bit, because if you get a true vintage pattern, they're 100 years old, if they're tissue, they're falling apart, they're cut up, things happen. So they basically clean them up and reproduce the instructions more or less exactly as they are. And so it's kind of that halfway mark. So it is the 1920s pattern and with the 1920s instructions. Now, you don't get sizing. Sizing is a thing. So that's another reason that I've kind of avoided doing it, not only my sewing skill, but feeling I would have to do fitting stuff. But it's the 1920s, so who cares about fit? Everything's a tube, which is pretty much how it's worked out. So it was a good place to start. So I'd ordered one that I'm going to talk about that was my favorite of the 3 that I made in the last week. But I ordered that pattern and I was going to make it. And then I was like on this person's, on the Vintage Pattern Lending Library's Etsy shop and saw this one. And I was like, well, that one's coming first. So I'm going to stand up and move my chair. This is like not the... You can't see it. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. It is all over on Instagram. So it is a 1925 suspender dress, and it was bananas to make. First of all, basically it has pockets in the straps, and just like figuring out seam finishes and how to get it to not fall apart. Days of work. Insane. The pockets are tiny and useless. But I did it, and I really like it. I always thought that like 1920s fashion wouldn't look great on me because I'm like a little on the curvier end, and like you hear how unflattering it is. It's only like, I guess yes, but also only if you think that flattering means you look smaller than you are. If you give up on that, 1920s fashion is fan-freaking-tastic. I don't care that my smallest part isn't accentuated. I'm comfortable and I look fabulous. Amazing. Life-changing. So I made the suspender dress, which I really, really loved. And then I decided that after going through all of that, I was perfectly capable of making this tie front dress. Also I will be picking that up. Also from the mid-20s. So this is not my bust size, but again, like, it's fine. It could be a little smaller. I increased the seam allowances a little bit at the side seams. I don't want to go overboard because of the sleeves, but here it is. So it has a contrasting collar. It has contrasting cuffs. It has, I learned how to face slits, so it's like kind of like doing a bound buttonhole. So there's actually like a little piece, you like sew a little patch to the front and push it through to the back. So this one didn't have any instructions on a facing. So I ended up I did a front facing and a back facing, like I drafted one, and hated how it felt. Like it was awful. So I ended up doing a bias facing in the back, and I really love it. I might actually start doing that on things because like that back facing never lays right, especially since I didn't on this, but I often have to do like shoulder bodice adjustments, and it never fits right, and it's just like always awful. So the combination back bias facing and front facing, I'm gonna take it off the hanger, maybe. Look, I'm not a content creator. So it's got a, you can see I'm gonna pull the facing out. So there's the front facing. I did serge these. There was no way I was doing fancy seam finishes on something I'd never made before. So so the fabric is striped, and so I did horizontal stripes on the skirt, and it has these, like, it has super cute pleats. It has some gathering at the waist. So it's like, it is definitely a dropped waist, but it has a little bit of movement in the skirt. So it's like, it's so cute. It's so cute. And I got it out of 3 yards of 42-inch wide fabric. This is one of the Ruby Star Society's wovens, the warp and weft. I don't think this one's in print anymore, but they're really nice for garments. They're very soft and flowy. They're a little prone to fraying, and like you need to be aware of that, but they are delightful. So I did hand hem it because I do that now. But it's so cute, and this little the tie is just sewn on under the collar. I really like this one. I think this one might become my, like, I might use it as kind of a standard 1920s and change up the collar, because I can do all kinds of things with that. And honestly, once I figured it out, again, there are like no instructions. There are some instructions. The best is though, like, everything that was like would have been complicated, it was like finish as shown in finishing techniques, and there was no finishing techniques thing in the pattern. So I had to know what I was doing. But I think I might, because without the binding, figuring this out, how to do this in a way that made sense was definitely a little bit of a thing. And but without the tie and changing up the collar and the neckline, I think I can make a lot of variations, which is great because it is so comfortable. Oh my goodness. The pattern has a waist tie, but I did not like how the waist tie looks. I like it better without. So there you go. So that's one. And then the one I just dropped on the floor. This one, oh my gosh, this was insane. Okay, so there is a 1920s pattern called the 1 hour dress, which is like kind of all over the internet. I ordered a PDF, like it was not very expensive, but I ordered a PDF of it from Etsy just so I would have it. But there's free versions available. It's basically like you draft it to your measurements on the fabric, which like, first of all, no, but also I did it. And I was like, I just want to see how this goes. I'm just gonna list everything I did wrong and then show the dress. I picked the wrong kind of fabric. I didn't have enough of it, so my skirt is much narrower. The original, you cut the skirt like with the fabric, and then you pleat it. You like can do pleats and gathers, and just like the one I just showed you, like so you have a little more movement of the skirt. I don't have that, so it's just kind of like a blob, like it's a tent. But with the right accessories, it's fine. And so I didn't have enough fabric. I cut things weird. I accidentally, because it's an all-in-one sleeve, so it's think of it like a T. And because of it making no sense, I ended up shortening the bodice instead of the sleeves by a lot, and like had to do another piece of contrasting fabric to like color block it. Anyway, the fabric is this really weird, I ordered it from Mood last year. It is a linen rayon blend that is somehow incredibly drapey and kind of thick, which is like not the best fabric for this. It was like all wrong. And you know what? It's super comfy. It looks like a bathing suit cover up, but with the right accessories, it does read 1920s. And going through the process, I know what to do to actually draft a pattern for it. I am not into just cutting into fabric with measurements. That is not how I roll. So I learned a lot in the process. So it's kind of like more in the wearable muslin department. But it was interesting because I kind of designed it on the fly. So here it is. It has pleats in the center-ish front. It's a sack. It's definitely a sack. But it's dirty already because it's white. So I used some leftover, I made trousers out of this fabric. It's a linen, it's a like two-tone linen. It's gorgeous. It's like the best red orange. And so I did contrasting cuffs. I did bias neckline binding. I did this faux placket with buttons on it. And this is where I had screwed up. So it was really fun to use extra fabric. And I kind of I had to figure stuff out on the fly. So I got it made and the cuffs were too big. So I had to figure out how to do that. And then I had to, it was too plain, and so I wanted to do the little placket. So figuring that, the math on that, it was really challenging. I mean, it was not an hour dress, and it's not something I just, I'm besotted with the purple one. I'm not besotted with this one, but I am interested in it, which is good. So that was the first, besides what I'm about to show you, the first time I'd worked with true vintage, vintage patterns, especially ones that old, and I loved doing it. Now, I wouldn't have wanted to do it even a year ago. I feel like I had to have quite a bit of sewing experience under my belt. I think not having to worry about fit at the same time is actually really helpful. So when I do decide to do 1940s, 30s and 40s true vintage patterns, I won't be so overwhelmed by the construction that I can't think, I didn't have to think about fit. I only had to think about construction, which, trust me, was plenty to think about. Bananas. So what started me onto that was I found it was a 1930, I think it was McCall's pattern, a 1931 sun hat. I love hats. We'll talk about hats. And so this one, I'm just gonna wear it. I love it so much. Oh, God, just a cloche, a bob and a cloche. It's just it's so good. So I made this one, and this one had literally no instructions, and thankfully I'd made a hat before. If you are looking to make a vintage hat, I highly recommend the Folkwear Metropolitan hat. It's only 3 pieces, but it gives you a sense of how hats are constructed. And once you know how to construct a hat and sew a hat, you can sew a hat. They're not that different. And so, because I find, and I'll talk about this in a second, I find the instructions for hat makers aren't garment sewists, it feels like, and some of it I'm just what? No. And so once you kind of figure that out, it's easier to make other hats, which is delightful. And so at this point, I feel like I just need pattern pieces. Like I don't actually need instructions because what? Some of them I'm like, why are you making this harder than it needs to be? So I made this one, and then full of the joys of spring and my own self-confidence, I was like, I'll make 1920s clothes, and then I had a lovely time doing it. So I'm not done with the 20s yet. Outstanding summer wear, because everything's like loose and flowy. I can't even imagine the difference that women in the 20s felt from going from even late Edwardian silhouettes to like the 1920 stuff. It is so free, like the freedom in it, even like from a modern perspective, the freedom in those garments is amazing. And I didn't even make underpants, although I want to, because 1920s knickers are like flowy boy shorts. I love boy shorts anyway, because like I do not like my butt out. But the idea of them being like even less restricting sounds amazing. Like just the absolute freedom and movement and dress. And like, yes, I know people wore girdles. Like I know, look, we wear bras, right? Like I know it wasn't total, but just the difference in those like late Edwardian silhouettes and like the mid 20s. Do you know how pissed people must have been when all of a sudden like you had to like wear like a girdle and a pointy bra? Like I would have just stayed in the 20s. I just would have like been out of fashion forever. So the like historian part of my brain is loving the sewing from true vintage patterns, and it's a challenge, but it was a worthwhile one. And nothing's perfect, but that's okay. So back to hats. I made another hat. Okay, so there is a seller on, I feel like I'm advertising Etsy. I hate Etsy, but like it's a good place for things like this. There's a seller called Elsewhen Millinery, and I bought a pattern from there. I made a cloche 2 years ago, and it was one of those like I didn't understand things. It's fine. I wear it. I'm wearing it in a recent Instagram post. Like it's fine. But I kind of stayed away because of that, because it was a really frustrating experience. And I was like, you know what? At this point, I made a 1931 hat from 1931 pattern. It's gonna be fine. So I ordered several cloche patterns. I've only made one so far. I freaking love this. I wanted one with a flipped up brim, because I have one that's like a true, like a cloche bell. So this is, I think it's the Annick, and I made it out of linen. And one of the things I find confusing about this person's patterns is like the interfacing instructions are bananas. Here's what I do. I use Pellon 8, I think it's 809, it's the Décor Bond. It's what I use for the linings of the larger bags. It's like a fairly structured interfacing. It's iron-on, it's fine. So I interface the outside, like the exterior pieces, it's lined. So I fuse interfacing to those, and I do a double layer I do a 1 layer on the lining of the brim, and then 2 layers on the exterior of the brim. It gives it look, it has plenty of structure. It's fine. It's so much easier. And this is linen. So this is a 100% linen, and then scrap. I did scrap for the yellow, because yellow goes with everything in my wardrobe, like a mustard goes with everything. Hats I have to be neutral on, and it's weird. So the buttons are vintage from my grandmother's button jar that I inherited, and I love using her buttons whenever I can, and I feel like these are very fun, and they're like that great Art Deco green. So absolutely love this hat. Love it with the purple dress. We are going to the Decemberist concert on Sunday night, and this is what I'm wearing. So really, really enjoying hats. That has been something that I found is nothing takes an outfit to like true vintage town like a hat. And I just like wearing them. Also, I sunburn really easily, so it's convenient. So that is the 1920s bender that I've been on. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. It has been so fun to just play dress up and time travel. Like, absolutely fantastic. And I think especially being able to work from true patterns is really, really fun. So I'm having a nice time. I know things are terrible right now and the state of the world is terrible, and there is something for me, not only in the like absorbing, distracting kind of way, but like one of the reasons that I love history and always have is like things have always been terrible. Things were never good. And you know what? People like lived their lives and they made beautiful things and they loved their family and their friends and they ate good food and they appreciated beautiful things and like they lived their lives and like they knew where, like, you know where your power is. And I think that one of the things that I struggle with in the world is that we have access to so much information that we feel that things that are systemic are a personal responsibility, and then we make ourselves miserable. And I know that we good humans do what they can, and also like these systems are big and entrenched, and we have access to the behind the scenes more than we ever did. And I think as people who care about the state of the world, we feel personally responsible for so much, and that burden wears on us. And so part of what I think I'm trying to do by like really just learning history and immersing myself in it as much as possible is just like a reminder of what it's like to be a regular person and not be in charge of the world, because that is exhausting. It's not about like weird misplaced nostalgia, like holy shit, were the 1920s problematic. I'm not here to recreate any of that. It's a reminder of what it's like to be a human, and I love that. So one more quick thing, just a little book haul, because I love these, and then I'll let you go. I ordered, it's the 1920s fashion definitive source book and the 1930s. I already own the 1940s. These are fabulous. I cannot recommend this book series enough. I think there's actually only, maybe not, maybe there's a 50s, but I don't care. I don't. They are, there's a lengthy introduction about fashion history. So there's some text, but they're mostly fashion plates and photos, and it's like high fashion, it's day wear, it's divided. There's like an evening wear section, an outerwear section, and an other section. So you can see hats, you can see all kinds of stuff. I love these. The 40s one is delightful, but I went ahead and ordered the 20s and the 30s. 30s underrated. So such underrated fashion. So if you are interested in vintage fashion history and kind of getting a sense of like what garments actually looked like, I highly recommend this series. The author is Charlotte Fiel, and yeah, so the 1930s fashion definitive source book and the 20s and the 40s, big fan. Okay, y'all. Shop update. Thursday, May the 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will link to the website below. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming along on this. I hope it is enjoyable. I'm having the best time. I didn't know you could have this much fun as an adult with crafts, but I am. Like, it's absolutely delightful. And all of you who chat with me on Instagram and follow along and say that I inspire you, thank you so much. I'm just really glad to be doing this, and I love sharing it. So, yay yarn, yay things. Take good care of yourself, and we'll chat next time. Bye.